All right, welcome back to a new chapter in the tutorial series here. We've moved on to Rising Storm 2 for this video. Um, the SDK is very similar. I'll probably in the next few weeks maybe throw together like a getting started um, tutorial similar to the Red Orchestra 2 videos if anyone's watched any of those. A lot of the stuff is very similar. I'll probably just end up covering some of the differences between the two. But today I wanted to briefly cover something that's been mentioned a few times on the forums, on Discord, and that is bringing in assets from Red Orchestra 2 and more so Rising Storm 1 and bringing them into a Rising Storm 2 map. So a lot of people have mentioned, bringing in things like different kind of trees, some of the like the temple ruins on some of the Rising Storm 1 maps that would probably go real well in a Vietnam setting. So I'm going to cover that today. Let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do when we want to bring a Rising Storm 1 asset over to like a custom map you're going to make for Rising Storm 2 Vietnam. There are a lot of useful props, things like that. I know these ruins in Kobura, if I'm saying that right, have been mentioned quite a few times. So I thought I'd just cover this briefly. This will apply across the board. Pretty much use these techniques to import anything you need to bring over. But the easiest way to do this, we're going to open up the Red Orchestra 2 Rising Storm 1 SDK. We've already opened up the map here. Then what I'm just going to do is find what I want. So the easiest thing I'm just going to look at is this statue. You're going to right-click on the prop or whatever it is you're wanting to use. You can click Find in the content browser. Now, we're not necessarily worried about exactly where this is. What we want to know is what package this is in. So the package is called RS Ruins. If you want to know exactly where that's at on your computer, if you right click it and click Explore, it's going to pop up and show you exactly where it is on your computer. So here's where we are going to find it. What we are going to do now, there's a couple different ways you can do this. I'm going to show you the way I've used, and for most instances this will work. I'm going to copy this. So I'll hit Control C. I want to copy that UPK, which is the package right here. I don't want to mess with any of the files, because if I want to play Rising Storm and I screw with these, I'm going to get disconnected from the server. You'll have to verify your cache and things like that for the game. So it's best if you just copy it, get a completely brand new version. All right, once we have that file copied, that UPK, we are going to go to our My Documents folder here. You should see a list of my games. So we go into Documents, My Games, and you'll see probably a lot more. I just got a new hard drive, so I really don't have much on here. What we're looking for is the Rising Storm 2 folder. You're going to click on that, go into RO Game, and then what we want is Unpublished. Now, if you don't have any of these folders I'm clicking on, just add them. If you've saved a map or even started making a map in the SDK, which I assume you've probably done if you're at this point, these will already all be there. Your maps will be saved in here. And then your packages are going to be saved in here. Now, these are not the packages for the game. These are extra packages, things you've saved maybe on your own, either by accident or on purpose. Normally, this folder would be empty at this point, but add it if it's not there. Just create a new folder called Packages. And then we're going to paste the UPK in there that we copied. Now, what I like to do here, just for simplicity, is I rename this, so this won't affect anything, but let's just call this Ruins for now, just so I know what I'm looking for when I go to open it in the SDK. So now that that's there, excuse me, you're going to want to launch the Rising Storm 2 SDK, which I already have going on here. I've got this very basic custom map I've started. It's really just a terrain and a sky. but it's good enough for our purposes. Now, what we want to do here, now remember we covered it if you watched any of the Red Orchestra 2 tutorials, we discussed saving things to your map. Typically, you don't want a bunch of external UPKs to go along with your map when you're uploading to the workshop. It's possible. It's easier on everyone if you are able to just wrap it up in the map file itself and not worry about having multiple packages going along with your map. So what we're going to do now is open up that UPK. We're not going to import it. We're going to open it. So you're going to click on this folder icon right here. We're going to go back to where we just copied it into. There it is, Ruins UPK. Now what you'll notice, yeah, we're going to get some errors here because what we're doing is we're pulling a UPK out of Red Orchestra 2, Rising Storm 1, and it's going to have dependencies. So all these packages are kind of interlaced. There's things on it. So we're not going to worry about that right now because what we're looking for is that specific statue in this instance. We've actually brought the entire package in, so there's a lot of stuff in there maybe we don't even really want. Once you've opened it in here, it's not going to pop up on its own. I always thought that was kind of weird. So we're just going to type in, we know we named it Ruins. Here it is. All right, so we've opened up the Rising Storm 1 package in the Rising Storm 2 editor. And if I just narrow things down to the little statue we looked at of the cat or whatever it is, this is what we get. Now, as we mentioned, we've got broken references, which we'll take care of here shortly. And in my opinion, this is actually for the best because a lot of the shaders, parent materials, things like that in Rising Storm 2 have been vastly updated for the better. So anytime we bring in a static mesh or a model from Rising Storm 1, if we can apply these updated parent materials to it, it's going to look better in Rising Storm 2 rather than look like some kind of like outdated, crappy material that's applied. Maybe it'll help it blend in a little bit better in the map. So that's just my opinion. If you want to go back into the Red Orchestra 2 SDK and also bring over the old materials, the old parent materials, you could use this same process. The only difference with this package, the parent materials for these, as you can see, it says parent none, which is why this has been broken in this material instance constant, because the parent material was in package for Iwo Jima. In Rising Storm 1, so you'd have to go back, find that, and bring it over if you wanted to. What we'll cover today is actually we're just going to update these, so it's easier and I think it looks better in the long run. But let's go ahead and place this down. One great benefit to this Rising Storm 2 SDK, if you remember in Red Orchestra 2, if you dragged and dropped meshes into the map, it was a cardinal sin. It was placed down in like a static mesh obstacle. But not in Rising Storm 2. They've taken care of that, and as you can see, it places down a static mesh actor. So if you drag and drop, you're in the good. You can hold down S key and also left click. Then you can use your static mesh placement tool here if you want to place a whole bunch of stuff down. So before we get started with placing things in the map and so forth, we're going to go ahead and edit what we have in the package. So what I'm going to do is I want to move all of the stuff here into my map so I'm not using things outside of the map, and then later when I go to save it, it's gonna want you to save this package and things like that. So just follow with me here, and we'll try to keep this as simple as possible. The only thing I'm worried about right now, there are tons of things in this package. Right now, we're just going to focus on the statue of, I guess, Shisa. The other stuff you could always add later, and you would just repeat this process. So we'll go ahead and select all of everything in the Shisa subgroup here in the package. Either hold down Shift or you can Control click. Now what we're going to do now is right click on what we have selected, and we're going to go down to Move or Rename. Now if this is grayed out for you and you can't click it, it's because you need to save the package first, because when we opened it, it's given us those warnings about the broken references. Easiest way to do that, you could just right click on it, click save. Once you do that, it'll save it. It'll give you a warning telling you, you have missing references. Just click yes, I don't care. Go ahead and save it. You're not going to mess up anything. That's why we copied the package over, so we're not screwing anything up that's in your vanilla game. But once you do that, you should then be able to click move or rename. A lot of times you'll see tutorials, they say create a copy. If you use create a copy, it will also break references. I prefer to use move or rename because it keeps all the references the same, so you don't have to go back and reassign it. You have less chance of having some like cross-package conflict stuff. So typically what I'm going to do is move or rename. Now what you want to do is now save it to the name of your map. So if you just start typing in the name of your map, if you remember from other tutorials, it'll automatically find it. You do that, you press down, there we go. So if I want to make a new group, I can. Or if I want to make a new subgroup in my maps package, I can. If I want to just save it straight to the map, you can do that too. So this one is already going to save it to what we had it there. If you want to change the name of the model, things like that, you can. It's not going to cause any problems if you just leave it the same. You can, if we want to call it whatever we want. But in this case, I'm just going to keep it the same for simplicity. Go ahead and click OK to all those. It's now moved everything over to my maps package. And you can see it right here. So now what I want to do, I'm safe to go ahead and place this down on the map. And now when I save it, it's going to ask me to save both of them. You can if you want. If you uncheck this, it will actually not affect the ruins package we brought in, so the cat statue will still be in it. It'll actually be in both, and that's usually what I do. So you can move, rename, and as long as you don't save the original package, you've actually made a copy, but it's more efficient in my opinion. So we'll go ahead and click Save Selected. If you don't want to mess with checkboxes and things like that, you can always just click Save Current Level, and it'll save the map and nothing else, and you don't have to worry about it. When you go to close the SDK, though, it'll ask you if you want to save ruins again, and we can just click No. So now we have this in here. Now what we're going to do is address the broken parent materials here. Okay, so we're back in the Red Orchestra 2 SDK just to kind of give you a feel of where this is coming from. We've got the material that we are using, or I guess in the original map here, this is what it's using. And as you can see, it's working correctly. But if you look at the parent material, it's set to the Iwo Jima rocks. What we can do, we can find the parent material in the content browser if we right-click on it. So we've got these rocks, and you've seen the Iwo Jima rocks. They're just the big volcanic rock things that look like what's on the map, Iwo Jima. That's just the parent material they're using. Now, if you want to learn about parent materials and material instance constants and things like that, I'll link some references down in the description, but we won't get into all that today. That's more of a kind of a basic UDK thing. But the main thing we want to look at, we would like to ideally find something similar to this in Rising Storm 2. That way, when we get the statue in there, it doesn't look too weird. So we know what it looks like. What I'm going to do now is go back to our Rising Storm 2 SDK, and I've already done some searching around. I really like these the material, if I could see it here, with the An Lao cliffs. So a little very similar, a little mossy. Maybe that's a little bit better. This is a good base material. This parent material is used extensively for other rocky stone materials in the game. So you can play with this, try different ones out. For our purposes today, just to throw something on this cat statue or whatever it is, this will work just fine. So what we're actually going to do now, we want this to be our parent material. So what I need to do is, let's see here, we're going to open this up. We have no parent material here, remember. And as you can see, it says none. So I've got this opened up. I've double-clicked on the material instance constants. Now this is what's saved in the cat thing, Shiza or whatever her name is, in our maps package. So I've got that opened up, and I'm going to go here. You just click on that magnifying glass if you want to find it. You can search through here. These are all saved, as you can see here, in the Enlau Cliffs materials. You could test, try any of these. Like I said, this is the parent material for nearly all of these mix here. So I'm just going to use this for now today. Like I said, play with it, try it. For different props that you bring in, you may have to try different things. So I'm going to select it here in the content browser. I now assign it here. I can play with all the settings. If you want to go back, you can see now the settings are going to be different than they were in Rising Storm 1 simply because this is a new parent material. But you can still go through, and it's going to allow me to set different textures. As you can see, we're using everything from the parent material. If I then want to go back, let's get back to our cat stuff in here. Here we are. Okay, if I want to go back, then I can assign, like I got the normal map for this this statue. Here's the diffuse map, which I believe they also use for the specular. So if we want to, we can assign the normal map right here. And if we check that box, then you'll get like the mouth and stuff like that will be affected. I believe there's a way you can go in here. Yeah, you can. Right now the moss is being used. We can turn off the moss if you want to. Sometimes it takes a second. So and you can play with all that you want later. So you can change the moss's diffuse there. So the possibilities are endless. We'll kind of skip over those details today since this is more about bringing things into the new game. But I'm going, and as you can see, it's already affected the model I've placed down here. So it doesn't look perfect. If we played around a little bit more with these settings, we'd likely get a little bit better results. Let me try this. Yeah, that looked a little bit better. We can turn off the moss, and it's kind of nice. It's all real time. So, and different parent materials are going to get you different results as well. So, anyways, that's how we're going to go about doing that here. This second material instance is used for the LODs, but upon a little bit of research, I noticed a lot of the rocks and things that are using this material in Rising Storm 1 aren't using a different LOD material. So you can assign that if you want. If not, I imagine you might lose. Well, at a distance, you might lose some of the material and get like a default material on there at a distance. But we can also assign the same parent material to that. I can control copy that. I can open this, and we can paste it right in there. All right, and we can just keep the same parent material for both because I didn't find an LOD for this particular material. But again, that's not super important right now. Turn that moss back on. I think that kind of helps hide some of the imperfections there. But that's all that covers that. We've brought this in. If we want to save the current level again, we can. Now this statue from Rising Storm 1 is now part of our Rising Storm 2 map. You could build lighting, check it out. It's not going to look right there. But that is essentially how you would bring something from Rising Storm 1 over to Rising Storm 2. I kind of drug it on. I talked really slow. So once you get the feel of this, it should go a lot quicker. But this would apply to anything. If you want to bring in a sky dome material, the sky domes in Rising Storm 2 are full globes, I guess. Rising Storm 1, they were just like the top hemisphere. So the materials are a little bit different, but if you wanted to bring in a Rising Storm 1 tree you liked, pretty much anything you wanted to, this would be the process to do it. Copy it over, open it up, and then move it into your maps package. If you get broken references and things like that, not the end of the world, easily fixable. And in the long run, like I said earlier, the shaders are much more updated, and things probably end up looking a little bit better with the new parent material. So if you have any questions, if any of this made little sense or was confusing, or you have a specific scenario where it's not working, feel free to comment below. I'll link the modding Discord that's been set up for Rising Storm 2 down in the description. You can tap into a wealth of resources. There's a bunch of mappers on there. There's a bunch of modders. There's people that have been doing this a lot longer than me that can certainly help you out. But I appreciate you watching, and I hope to see some great maps come out of this new game. Thank you.